Okay, we are live. I'm getting my blanket because it is freaking cold. It's cold, cold, cold in California. Okay, guys, how are you? How are you? Let me know. I'll give it a minute, see if anyone's able to join me live. Hopefully so, because I like connecting with you guys. As the topic of the video says today, I'm going to be talking about how to break up with your addiction to hustle so that you can make more money and actually enjoy your life. And I'm excited to talk about this because this is something I had to learn, and this is something that I walk a lot of women through, and it's a repeat pattern because of how we're conditioned, and I'm here to totally help shake up that programming. I see some people hopping on. Say hello so I can see who's here with me. Yeah, and we're gonna dive in. So, and I am just cozy because it is cold, so come get cozy with me. Grab a blanket, grab a tea, something. I have a feeling this might be on the longer side because I have a lot of things to say about this and I'm super excited. So welcome everyone, welcome. Okay, let's talk about it. Let's talk about hustle, why we get addicted to it, and why it actually doesn't work, okay? So, the thing is, we're very conditioned by society to be in our masculine energy, that going, pushing, doing, go energy all of the time. And we've been taught and programmed that that's the only way to create success. Okay, now when women come into my world, I typically see two things. Either they're not in their masculine energy at all. They've been wounded by the masculine energy, so they have a fear around structure, around discipline, around doing, because they have these beliefs that it's not safe, or that it limits them and restricts them, and they want to be free. So they're actually blocking themselves from balancing out. They're in that wounded feminine energy, and they're not balancing the masculine and feminine energies within themselves. So they're not taking the action. They're not disciplining themselves internally, like mentally and emotionally. They're not stabilizing. So they're not getting what they want, okay? I'm not going to be talking about that today. I'm going to be talking about the opposite. So the other one I see is women who are in their masculine power, but they're not balancing it with their feminine, and there's deeper issues going on. And what this will look like is that you create success, you get the money, you get the clients, but it's not feeling good. So sometimes this is like why you're stuck in a 9-to-5 job that you hate, and you just don't see a way out, and you just keep selling your soul because you're like, yeah, but it works and the money's good. Or this can be too, and where this can be more sneaky and harder to pick up on the patterns and identify this, is women who are doing something they love and they've created success in it, but it's like coming at a cost, right? They're sacrificing a lot. They're overworking. They're not actually building a juicy, full life that they desire, and they pay for it in their health. They pay for it in their relationships, and it's actually driven by fear and deeper wounding going on because they haven't balanced fully the feminine energies. Hello to whoever's hopping on. Thanks for joining me. Actually, now I feel like I'm warm and don't need the blanket. Yay. Okay. So what this work is, no matter which end of the spectrum you fall on, I'm going to be specifically talking about hustle today. We can talk about fear of the masculine another day. But this really has to do with, as always, balancing and mastering your internal state. Hi, Janet, welcome. And when I talk about masculine and feminine energies, I feel like if you're tuned in, you understand this, but I do post my content on a couple platforms, so let me just clarify what I mean. This has nothing to do with gender. We each have masculine and feminine qualities within ourselves. And whenever we're operating from a space where we are rejecting one of them, or we're not in a healthy, balanced state, and the two working together, we're essentially rejecting a part of ourselves, and it really shows up in imbalanced ways in our life, right? So specifically when we're talking about the addiction to hustle, this is very prevalent because this is what we've been programmed with. We've been programmed to think that the feminine is not necessary, right? I'm going to give an example before we even jump into this about just working out. So it's always so funny to me when people are come to me and they're having body things and they're like, I'm working so hard, I'm working out, I'm really watching what I eat. And I'm like, yeah, are you even stretching? Are you doing yoga? Are you just overworking your body? And it's we've just people don't see the value in it. But the thing is, when you start stretching, that's such an easy, quick fix that one centers you, mind and body. It's peaceful. It creates peace and stability within you. It really connects you to your body, your femininity. It prevents injury, right? So it prevents you from like burning out. And it also really maximizes your results. Therefore, you can work hard or work smarter, not harder. You can do less and get better results, right? We really need both, but we're always just taught to go, 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 constantly be doing, constantly be outputting. And as society, that's been really glorified. So there's a lot of layers to this where we like really tie our worthiness in with how much we're doing and how much we're achieving. And this is a recipe for disaster, right? Because it's not sustainable and it's not fulfilling. Is this making sense? Let me know. I have a sip of my water here. And I know this firsthand. I experienced this because, you know, I, at a young age, had to provide for myself, and I was working in nightlife, and I was like, you know, I thought that was better than the alternative of working a 9-to-5 job, because I tried that and I hated it, and it wasn't paying the bills and or like letting me live life like to my standards. So I was, you know, like working weekends, working holidays, working late nights. And, you know, what I didn't realize is that I actually just kind of created another demanding job for myself. It really, my health really suffered. I just avoided relationships altogether because I didn't feel like trying to explain, or like people couldn't get it. Like, and I really like didn't build up my friendships the way I wanted to because I was always missing things, and I was always like so focused on like must work, must work, must work. And I was like making more money than like a lot more money than most of my friends, but I also wasn't holding on to it because I hadn't like cleared the poverty programming that was in me, right? So I burnt out, and I realized that this wasn't sustainable. If you've been following me for a while, I've shared how, you know, I had developed an autoimmune. I had a lot of like chronic pain and other things going on. And this is something that I see is very common with women who have created success, but they've created it through this blueprint of hustle. Is their body, it starts showing up in your body, right? Like either this can be things like an imbalanced relationship to food and exercise, right? Or just like not feeling good in your body, chronic pain, signs of chronic stress, like adrenal fatigue, digestive issues, autoimmune, right? These are all things that are very common, and it's very, very linked. And this is what happens when we completely shut the feminine out. We really, that's that nurturing, that energy that repairs, that nurtures, that sustains, that really is fulfilling and really connects you to yourself and your body. So the things are very, very linked. Guys, when I go on here, I don't script this. I just have a topic that's like, ooh, I want to talk about that. And then I just kind of bounce around. So I hope you can follow me. And I would love to know, like, if you're watching live or the replay, like, let me know down in the comments below if this is resonating, if you've experienced this. So, you know, I burnt out, and I realized that this wasn't sustainable. And it was like really frustrating because I was putting out a lot of effort, but I didn't have a whole lot to show for it. And I just always had this feeling like I was behind. And what was going on was there were deeper wounds and traumas and fears around poverty, around not being worthy, of feeling like I needed to prove myself, stories I had of that, like, in order to be successful, I needed to work really hard. I had to sacrifice, right? And this is how we're conditioned. We're really conditioned to be very outwardly focused. Now, I just want to be clear, I'm not dissing masculine energy whatsoever. Like I said in the beginning of this video, you know, sometimes women come to me and they're like not incorporating any of the masculine energy, and that's like a wounding too. We need both. Like, in order to be operating from a space of wholeness, you need to integrate both. And when you do that, right, because our outer reality is always a reflection of our inner reality. When we can really go in and marry those two energies within ourselves and really balance it and learn like our own unique way to balance those, because it's different for each person, what that reflects on the outside then is a really balanced, juicy, full, actual wealthy life, right? So, you know, my mastermind is called Wealthy Women Revolution because it's not just about money. It's about having it all: the love, the time freedom, the financial freedom, the success, doing something you love, right? Let me read this comment. Janet says, yes, absolutely. You are making total sense of the weirdness I felt in myself. Thank you. You're so welcome. I'm glad. And I'm glad because sometimes I just kind of ramble. And I'm like, at the end, I'm like, I don't even remember what I said. I hope it makes sense. I love that you just jump on and channel whatever gets downloaded. Love your realness and authenticity. Oh, thank you. That's a beautiful comment. Thank you. I appreciate that. Yeah, and I appreciate you guys being here, and I appreciate that you guys get me. So I'm happy to have you here. So yeah, I realized it wasn't sustainable. But then when I tried to start my business, things weren't working. I was hitting a lot of roadblocks, and it became very apparent to me that it was because I hadn't changed internally who I was being. I had these like lack and struggle stories going on. And, I was in this world of coaches who were like, yeah, it can be easy. You can make a lot of money. You can work less. But like, I wasn't changing my programming. I wasn't healing my nervous system. I wasn't doing like any of the things that I teach and lead women through because I didn't know. And so like things weren't freaking working. And a good example is, people who win the lottery, right? So someone poor wins the lottery, and statistically, about a year later, they're just as broke, if not worse, than they were before. So why is that, right? It's because who they're being internally, how they're operating, how they're believing, their concept of themselves, how they view money, how they view life is lack-based. It's fear-based, it's scarcity-based. They didn't upgrade their software internally, essentially. They didn't change anything internally, so it didn't matter what came to them in the outside world. They're going to override that with their internal beliefs. So what I see with women specifically, especially women who have created success, is there's this addiction to hustle. They just keep going. They're not really fully fulfilled, but they're just tell themselves, well, it's better than being at a 9-to-5. It's better than being in a cubicle or whatever, right? Like they're not fully letting themselves get their full self on board with like what they actually desire. And there's layers to this. There's reasons why. And typically what I find is underneath that is a lot of fear, right? A fear that their success is going to run out. At some point, they know they can't keep hustling like that. They know they're going to have to like retire at some point. Now, what I love about the way I teach this is because you'll never actually have to retire if you do this right? You figure out how to do this in a way and create success that's sustainable for you. Because I never really understood that thing of like work yourself to the bone and then like retire and not do anything. Like I'm a passionate person. I have a lot of interests. Hello to everyone helping on. Thank you. I'll go back and read comments in a minute. I want to always be doing things, and I've always had a business mind. I've always been like, had an entrepreneurial spirit. So I don't like that idea, but I'm also not available to like sell my soul and not have a life and like not live a full juicy life. Like you get to have it all. So where I see it with women is like, there's a fear that they know deep down it's not sustainable. They know something's missing. They're like, this is great. I'm doing something I love. I like the success. I like the money. But like, maybe they're not feeling good in their body. Maybe they're disconnected from their body. Maybe they're got walls up around their heart. Maybe they're not allowing themselves to open up to a relationship. Maybe they're not, creating the kind of home life that would feel really good to them, right? There's all these ways we sacrifice, and that's because we've been programmed that way, but it doesn't need to be that way. I have more to say on this in a second. Hang on. Vanessa says you don't like the idea later or either. Yeah, me. No one does. That's the thing. So like, this is why I talk about this stuff, because we need to shake up the paradigm, because so much more is available to you. Like, and we're going to get into some of the fears, okay, in a minute to help you understand. Janet says, yes, it's like doing something different without doing the internal software upgrade. Yes, exactly. Yeah. I love that, Hannah. Retirement is not necessary. We just keep doing stuff that we love and feels like fun. Yeah. And this is what we're not taught, right? We're not taught that we can have fun, right? We're taught to go to school. We're taught to be good employees, to work and get your like 2 weeks vacation, to trade your time for money. And then like you retire. But by the time you retire, your body's all fucked because you didn't take care of yourself and you're miserable and your money runs out because you've got a poverty mindset. Like it doesn't work. It doesn't work. So, there's a fear that the success is going to run out. it's this like void that you feel because you know you're not receiving everything you want, but it doesn't feel safe to really get in touch with your deeper desires because deep down you don't believe you can have it all. You know, feeling like you need to choose between success and fulfillment, right? There's a fear like in business that the clients are going to run out, that the money is going to dry up. Like, so there's a lot of fears. And so a lot of this is learning to trust the feminine, learning to trust and being willing to see things differently, being willing to tell new stories, being willing to look at like what trauma, what wounding is under that, right? The thing is, we can get very and this is like the masculine based paradigm is like just compartmentalize and like keep the emotion out of it. But when we do that, what we don't understand is like your heart is the most powerful electromagnetic field in your body. That's the feminine center right there, like your heart in your womb space. So powerful for manifestation and just naturally being magnetic and attracting things in and for expanding and amplifying, right? So when we build walls up around our heart and we compartmentalize and we're just like disconnect from our bodies and we disconnect from our desires and we just are in our minds and we're like, go, 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 stay on the hamster wheel. Like we're putting walls up around our heart. And while that may give you the illusion of being safe because you're like, ooh, I'm keeping the shit out, you're also keeping the good stuff out. And the reason you're doing this is because you don't actually trust yourself, and you don't actually fully trust yourself because you haven't done the inner integration work. It's not like your fears actually don't have anything to do with anyone or anything outside of you. You know, we're the ones generating everything. And the beautiful thing about doing this inner alignment work and really coming into a space of wholeness and figuring out how to balance your energies in a way that works for you. It's going to look different for other people, right? Like I identify more primarily with like a feminine energy. So I work a lot more on my magnetism and stuff. Like I'm not so much about doing so much, you know, whereas other people are naturally more like that fire, that drive and the doing. You still need to work on balancing the feminine, right? When you do this, when you operate from a space of wholeness, you're building a really firm foundation in yourself, within yourself. And when you learn how to trust yourself, like you become unshakable. It doesn't matter if we're in the middle of a financial crisis because you fully trust yourself and your ability to create life on your own terms. You know that it doesn't matter if we're in a pandemic. You know you can generate more money. Always. You can always thrive. You get what I'm saying? Like, so it's like, it will feel vulnerable at first because we're going to have to like kind of peel away the layers of the programming. We're going to have to like brick by brick take down that wall. And that likely feels like the most freaking scary thing to you ever. But it's like, you need to stop running from yourself. I mean, you don't need to. I see the hearts, thank you. You don't need to do anything. It's just like if you've identified that you're not fully fulfilled, if you've identified that you want more, like this is the work you get to do. And it's not easy. Deconditioning, deprogramming is not easy. It doesn't feel safe because what feels safe to our minds is how we've known life to be. You know, and let's just segue into that a little bit about like how the rules are so like bullshit, right? So here's the thing, like everyone I talk to has their own version of, well, we have our own version of what success looks like to us. And we also have our own like unique programming around what we think we need to do to get that success. So for like the women, like in the beginning, I talked about how some women just like they're in that wounded feminine energy and they're not taking action. They're not like disciplining themselves. So they're like sabotaging their success there. Like their belief system is typically along the lines of no matter how much I do, it's never enough. So I don't want it. Right? Whereas the people who are more in the masculine energy and blocking out the feminine energy side, they're like, oh, if I work really hard, then I'll get the success. So they work really hard and get the success and then think it's because they worked hard, but really it was because they decided that in their mind that if they worked hard, they would create the success. So in our minds, whatever program we're holding is how it goes. This is why a lot of the work I do, well, I work with you on like with your nervous system because we need to get all of this on board, but a lot of it's in the mind and really identifying like what are the programs, because everyone has such a different program of how it works. You will always experience and create life the way you believe it to be. Like a good example of how I undid this was when I was healing my autoimmune. I had to stop going to a million different doctors because they all had a different idea of how to heal it and what was wrong. And I was like, this is crazy. None of this makes sense. So I went in and changed that. I was like, I want to be able to eat what I want to eat. I want to not have fear around food. I want my body to heal. I just want to experience the divine health that I know is my birthright. And like, sure enough, I stuck with that. I persisted in that long enough and stopped looking to the outside for evidence, and things shifted quickly. And you can do this with your money. You can do this with your relationships. You can do this with business. You decide the rules. But where it's hard for people to pick up on this is because they're believing that I need to do X, Y, Z, like I need to work every day, or I need to be like hustling for clients or whatever it is. Like, because that's your belief system, you've created evidence to back that up. So like in your mind, you think it works. There is another way available, but you're not going to be able to perceive it from that same mindset. So the work that's required is always to the first thing I like to recommend, let me read the comments. We've been taught to follow the rules, struggle, suffer, and then die. Yuck, that's not my path. Yeah, no, I don't want that to be anyone's path. It's so not necessary. It's so not necessary. So the first place to start is to, one, be radically honest with yourself. What are the shitty stories that are blocking you? Do you believe that you can't have success and time freedom? Do you not believe that you can do something you love and make really good money? Do you believe that you need to work really hard? Do you believe there's something to prove? Do you not believe you can have a thriving career and a thriving relationship? Or do you not believe you can be successful and have a really amazing, healthy body and feel really good? What is it? There's, people, they always come to me because they've got some sort of hang up. So the first thing is to be radically honest with yourself. Where's the struggle story? What's your unique struggle story? And then decide, what do you want instead? And really do the internal alignment work to back that and to align with it. And again, it's not super easy. Manifestation, conscious creation is not for the weak. It's not for the faint of heart. There's nothing easy about admitting to yourself that you're the one who's been creating and perpetuating everything. It takes balls to admit, hey, I'm the one creating this. It's so much easier to just give your power away and be like, oh, fuck the system. Everything sucks. This is just the price I have to pay. It's so much easier to do that, right? But what's on the other side of the hard work is everything you want, and it's really worth it. For me personally, I would not like to go and repeat the past. I really don't care to do that. But if I ever was faced with it, I would choose this path all over again because it's so worth it. Can you share examples of how you shifted your thinking and then took inspired action to create the life you desired? Yeah, that's kind of an open-ended question. I think you're wanting to say, are you asking more how the inspired action comes? That's kind of what I'm thinking maybe. So, okay, this is a good thing to talk about. So we get clear on how are we holding ourselves back? What do we actually want? What our human wants to do right after that is then know immediately, well, how? Well, when you're tuned into a program that's very limiting, you're not going to see the how. And this is where most people trip themselves up. They're like, oh, it's going to take so long. It's going to be such hard work. That's too risky. And they just go back to what feels safe and what they know, even though it's not making them happy. The inspired action will come, but I find that it has a lot more to do with your energy and what you believe. Let me give an example of this. So if you're someone who's addicted to hustle, probably the idea of stepping away from your business sounds like literal hell. It sounds like a death sentence. You're it's all gonna fall apart. You're everything I worked so hard to create, everything I'm proud of is going to go away. You don't trust the feminine. You don't trust that you can relax and take care of yourself and work less and make more money. You don't. So it's not going to feel realistic at first. It's not going to look doable at first. Your brain's just not going to see a way how. So that's where we get to go in and see where are these limiting beliefs? What's the deeper fear? is there a worthiness thing going on? Why don't you trust? Like, where are you buying into lack? Where do you believe you need to trade your time for money? Like, we get to go in and rework those things. But even without that, like, just admitting what you want and working with your nervous system to calm down, because typically when you're addicted to hustle, you're like, your body's in that fight or flight a lot. Just working with your nervous system and softening and reconnecting to your body and like breathing into your womb, your heart, really experiencing that expansion, that alone frees up so much, and you'll start magnetizing more to you. The power of setting intention is that we don't need to know how. You set the intention that you want more. You look at like, okay, I'm sacrificing this and this, and I'm not willing to sacrifice anymore. I want it all. I have no idea how, but I want that. Setting that intention and then landing in that space of like opening and softening your body and knowing that it's possible without knowing how, that alone will start magnetizing solutions to you. You're all of a sudden just being willing to like know that it's possible, frees up your mind to see the things that are all the options that were always here for you that you just weren't tuned into because you didn't believe it could be that way. And then when we work on your energy internally, you'll start magnetizing things to you. And you'll get creative solutions and ideas. Like when you ask, you always receive. The problem is most people don't let themselves ask because they think they can't have it and they think it's going to be really painful. Does this resonate? Sorry, this comment's like, it's not letting me see the full comment. For me, I know all this stuff in my head, but I want to live it and see evidence of it. Yeah, this is a good point. We'll talk about this. Been on this journey for many years, yet there's still obviously beliefs I'm not seeing that are keeping me from manifesting the money, lifestyle, desire. It makes sense. Yes, this makes perfect sense. And you're not alone in that. Like, let me tell you that first. So the evidence thing, this is a really good one. Okay. There's rarely evidence. Well, okay, false. You can be kind to your mind, and like when you start owning what you want, you can go specifically look for people who've achieved that, and that alone will like expand the horizons in your mind. But when you're an innovator, like I would consider myself that, you know, oftentimes there's not an example or physical proof of what we want to create. And this is where we have to really reconnect with our feminine energy and that like childlike imagination, right? Because we are so taught to just live on autopilot and not imagine. We're taught that it's painful to daydream, like that's not realistic. Well, realism is pessimism. Okay, so we got to like detach from the addiction to being realistic, and realistic sucks, right? So you get to go in and create it internally. You're going to get evidence as you stabilize and really do the energetic work. When you shift internally, eventually you will get evidence, but it's not always immediate because our beliefs aren't shifting immediately. And this is where a lot of people get stuck. A lot of people will start changing and then they get frustrated when they're not seeing the results right away. And they're like, see, it doesn't work. And then they like go back to the shitty things and then like repeat the cycle. It's like, don't do that. Like love yourself enough to persist and get through to the other side. And this is why I do this work. And so the evidence doesn't always come at first, but what's really cool, what I do notice is that after just a couple weeks, like you will start seeing changes and you're going to start feeling better. So I remember a point in my life, this would be a cool story. I knew today was going to be long, by the way. Thanks for all the people here with me. And then I'm going to finish answering the rest of this question. So I always like traveled. I would travel like 3 times a year, and I always had this thing where I wanted to live abroad. I was like, that just would feel so free and awesome. However, I was not practicing being free. I had a lot of limiting things going on within myself. And the thing about traveling, the thing about relationships, the thing about anything, different jobs is wherever you go, you're taking yourself and your patterns with you. So I was living in South America, like this dream that I had. And I remember one day being like so fucking pissed off. Like, why is it the same shit? Like I was in a bad relationship again. I was like having money issues again. I just wasn't feeling happy. And I was like, damn it. Like I just keep like everywhere I go, it's like the same stuff. And I remember there was like, my soul spoke to me, and this was like the part, like this was a pivotal moment in my life where I had a breakthrough of understanding that it was me, like I was the problem. And I remember just being like so down and out and like, okay, Hannah, worst case scenario. Let's say you were stuck here forever, like you could never get a better relationship. Your money was never going to change. What if you were like stuck in this country? Because I was like having an issue with my visa and I was like, nothing's working. You know, it was like a pity party. I was like, what would need to change for you to not be so miserable? And I was like, well, I could start taking better care of my body. I could like think a little more positive. I could be a little kinder. Like there were a lot of like little things I could do. And I began to realize that like, you know, at the end of the day, despite the circumstances, it's up to me to choose how I'm going to be. And that was a pivotal moment in my life. I didn't really master my energetic alignment anytime soon after that, but like things did start looking up after that. Let me read the rest of this. Yeah, so been on the journey for many years, and there are still obviously beliefs that I'm not seeing that are keeping me from manifesting the money and the lifestyle I desire. Okay, yes, this is a real thing. So what happens, and this is like actually one of my gifts, is I'm able to really help, able to quickly identify what's going on with you energetically and help you see the patterns. You know, it's not just good for me to see them, like I need to help you see it, because once you see it, you can shift it. Seeing it's just the first part, okay? That alone is very empowering. Sometimes, depending on how deeply ingrained it is, just seeing it can help you be like, oh, that's bullshit, I don't believe that, and you clear it. But other times, and I've experienced this myself and with clients, we identify the pattern, but it's in there deep. And you've created a lot of evidence in your 3D reality that supports that. So the change doesn't happen right away. And that's where you need to be really strong and determined and really get in touch with that masculine fire, that drive, that discipline, that devotion, and say, I'm going to see this through. I choose to believe that I'm powerful. I choose to believe that my thoughts create. I choose to take full responsibility for what's showing up out here. And I'm going to persist, and I'm going to tell a new story, and I'm going to think different thoughts, and I'm going to feel different things, and I'm going to take different actions that support me. And I'm going to do it even when I'm not seeing the results. I know that I created this, so I know that I can uncreate it. And that's where a lot of people struggle. So yeah, people struggle to see what the patterns are, because it's like, you know, some things is just what we've known. For me, like healing my body was a big one, because I like, without getting too deep into myself, like my mother's like not like always on antidepressants, anxiety meds. Like I was born and had like digestive issues as a baby. Like, so for me, I identified so heavily as someone whose body was broken. And then like I went through like years of abuse and like a lot of like instability growing up. So that again gets expressed in your body, right? And autoimmune, what's autoimmune? When your body's fighting yourself, right? Like it's like attacking itself, like screaming misalignment, right? But I didn't see that for a long time, because I didn't even understand for many years that like I could feel good in my body. All I knew was like pain and having digestive issues, you know? So sometimes it's just really close to us. And that's why like, so I call myself an expander. I'm here to like shake up the paradigm. I'm here to help you like open your mind to what's available to you, because when you do, all of a sudden, sometimes it lights that spark in you and you see where you've been playing small. You see that so much more is available to you and you didn't even know it. But you gotta then claim that. You have to fully claim yourself and your desires, because just seeing it's available is one thing. You know, so many people, we have this self-concept of, well, good things happen to other people. Other people can have it all, but I can't have it all. And you keep it at an arm's length. You keep it as this thing like, oh, maybe in the future, or this thing that you can never have. So the first step is to go in internally and really fully claim it. This is about really fucking loving yourself. This is about claiming yourself. Again, when we operate from a state of wholeness within, your outer reality has to reflect that back to you. It's not always instant, because it takes time to shift these internal patterns, right? But when you persist, it will be made evident in your outer reality. It has no choice but to conform. You know, where most people, so why it's hard to make the switch, let's talk about that. Because we operate off autopilot, right? There's programs that we've been wired into us from like how we're brought up, or how we've experienced life, or like assumptions we've made, or things we've been taught, right? And that's in the background running on autopilot. It's actually taking a lot of your energy, your precious creative life force energy, to keep feeding those stories, but we don't typically realize it because it's on autopilot and it feels natural to us. So when we want to go in and consciously change the programs and the way we're operating, it's going to feel like work because it goes against what feels easy to us. But when you persist and you put the work in, and again, thank God it doesn't need to take years. Like, you can do this in a matter of weeks. You really can. This is why I don't do long drawn out programs, because I don't want you putting your life on hold anymore. Like, you've suffered enough. Like, let's just get on with your life. You've got things to do and money to make and lives to change and like things to live. Once you make that switch, when you stay consistent, that's going to eventually take over. That's going to eventually trump the old programming. And then that's your autopilot. And then it gets to be easy. And then life gets to be really fun. And then you're just effortlessly attracting based off of your programming. And you don't have to sit there and affirm new things and like work through your triggers so much. Like, there's, I say that you can like reset like your point of attraction. Like, you can reset like just like your basic way you operate. And then it gets to be fun because you're an infinite being. You get to always be changing and growing and evolving. You get to always be letting go of limiting beliefs and letting more goodness in. Like, you get to keep expanding. That's kind of the idea. Like, we're not supposed to stay stagnant. That's why it's so miserable when you feel stuck, right? Because it's like going against your soul's desire to keep expanding. But it does get easier. It's just like making that initial switch. It's not easy. And the funny thing is, it's all in the mind. It feels really real to us because we've created external circumstances based off of what we've been believing and holding and how we've been operating. But it's like to like take your power back, to like sit back, like disconnect, remove yourself, kind of detach from what's going on outside, and really take full responsibility and really like be brave enough and vulnerable enough to go in and release this stuff and really buckle down and do it, even when things aren't shifting in the outside. Like, that takes a lot of trust. It takes a lot of faith. But when you do this, you really learn, you trust yourself, and you know that no matter what's going on around you, you understand that you're the one creating your reality. You understand that you're never stuck. You understand that you're never limited. And that to me is like true freedom. You understand that you can recreate anything, right? So yeah, I kind of went off on a tangent with that. There was something else I wanted to say. I'm trying to think of what it was. Oh yeah, about expanding like what's possible for you. So this is a cool story. So I remember like when like my money paradigm got shaken, when I came back from, where was I? I was in South America, and then I was in Central America, and then I came back to the US, and I like knew I didn't want to go back to working nightlife again. So I was like trying to work a job. I was working at Audi. I love Audi. I have an Audi. I was working there, and this guy came in I was working through his financing paperwork, and I was like, "Oh, sir, I actually needed you to say your monthly income, not your yearly income. It said $100,000." And he was like, "No, that's it." Mind blown. That was another pivotal moment for me. That was someone just like so nonchalant, like that was an automatic normal thing for him. And I was like, I had never heard of someone who makes $100,000 a month. This was years ago. And then I bought on Audible, I started researching everything online. I was like, it lit the spark in me. I was like, holy fuck, like there's gotta be an easier way. Like, I'm not available for this shit anymore. And I, started Googling everything, like YouTube, everything. I was like, how do you make passive income online? Like all these things. It hadn't occurred to me at that point that like I had talents and gifts to share with the world. I thought I would need to like have an online shop or something. But like, I love that little entrepreneurial spirit in me who like saw it and was like, there's gotta be a way for me to get it too. So then like somehow I found The Secrets of the Millionaire Mind by Harvacker. I recommend this book to all my clients as well. And I got it on Audible, and every time I was driving to that job I hated, like to and from, I was listening to it. And he has you like do this thing where at the end of each chapter you do an affirmation, you tap your mind, you're like, I have a millionaire mind, and you're like drilling it in. So I was like driving to this job I hated, like, I have a millionaire mind. I didn't believe it at all. And that's the thing. At first, you're not going to believe it. It's going to sound crazy. It's going to just sound delusional to you. But do you know what the real craziness is? Do you know what the real delusion is? Thinking that you're stuck. thinking that you're not powerful, thinking that you can't get what you want. Like, that's the real delusion. So it's not always easy, you know. A lot of people get triggered. Like when you're an expander, so like I'm an expander, people either love me or hate me. It's been like that my whole life. Like, you know, when you're unapologetic, that can trigger a lot of people. But when it expands you, that's really awesome, because it's not always comfortable to be expanded. But when you lean into it, when you say, I have no idea how I get to have this for me too, but I'm just going to choose to say yes, and trust that the steps will appear, trust that I'll be led, trust that the support will show up, trust that I'll know what to do. That's how you close the gap. That's how you start embodying. Let me read this. Yes, exactly. It's similar to what you keep experiencing. Like, are you talking about the difficulty switching over, Janet? So yeah, I think this has been kind of long and rambly, but I hope it was good. This was really fun. Yeah, so like breaking up with your addiction to hustle. You got to go deeper. You got to take a look at, one, you got to be honest what you actually want. Where are you holding yourself back? And you got to be willing to go deeper and address the emotional things, the trust issues, like why you don't trust the feminine. I'm not telling you to not take action. I'm not telling you not to do the things you love. Absolutely not. But we need to like find where the energies are imbalanced and work on really stabilizing that internally, identifying what stories are keeping you stuck, tell new empowering stories, and persist, and be willing to be holding this like new world for yourself internally before it's expressed externally. You have to commit to yourself no matter what. Like, stop abandoning yourself. Stop abandoning your dreams. You're so worth it. You can have whatever you want. You're an infinite being. And the work's always internal. Okay, I'm glad that's what you're talking about. I'm glad that makes sense. My loves, the ways to work with me when I hop off this live, I will link it in here, but it's also linked in my bio. I have my mastermind, Wealthy Woman Revolution. You know, I think from this talk, you know what I do. I help you do this work. I help you reconnect with your body. That's a big part of the work I do, because that's a big part of what I led myself through. Really reconnect with your intuition, balancing your masculine and feminine energies. Hello, Emily. Hi, welcome. Really help you master your mindset. I'm really good at helping you see where you're blocked, what stories are going on, and shift it, and really support you as you shift it, because I promise you, whatever's going on internally is what's being expressed externally. It's never about trying to fix things in the external. Sometimes there's steps you're going to take in the external, of course, but it's mostly an inner game, and it does take dedication. It takes being willing to be vulnerable and release old ways of being, but like everything you want's on the other side, okay? So there's my mastermind, and then I have a couple different one-on-one options, and then I do have some self-paced programs if you're like just starting out. So I will link that for you guys once I hop off Facebook, but it's also in my bio. I am sending you guys love. Have an amazing Sunday. Please go do something fun. It's nice and sunny here, although it's freezing, but I'm gonna go get some sun and enjoy my day. So thank you for being here, and I will connect with you soon. Bye.